Good afternoon everybody and welcome back to my channel. I went out the other day and I shot a really solid series of images that I got stuck in a bit of a creative rut, and I'm quite pleased that I managed to come away with something that I like. And it sort of prompted me to go through sort of some of my old photos and come up with some favourites of mine and some favourites that people have chosen as well. And just basically sort of analyse them, what I like, what I don't like, sort of self-critiquing my own photos. I feel like I definitely am quite harsh on my imagery, and I thought this would be quite a fun little video to do. So I've got Procreate running and I've got some images in here. I'm just going to cycle through them, show you what I like, what I don't like, show you some of the finer details, etc. So let's kick it off with this image. Now this is an image that I really like, and it's of a man in a bus. I think he was the only person on the bottom floor, and this is just coming out of London Bridge Station, and there's a little like a pelican crossing, and the buses tend to stop there to let traffic go down. And I managed to snap him, and just the bus took off and I managed to get him as he was coming out. And I really like this image because of this element here, and that's just his face here is just in shadow, and like the rest of him there is in shadow, but then this whole area here is in highlight. And he looks like he's looking at me. I'm not sure if he is or if he's just looking past me, but there's almost that contact in the subject. The only thing I don't really like about this image is this whole area down here. I think that looks a bit weird. I should have probably darkened that down in post, but I just like this image as a whole. It reminds me of there's a scene in the new Joker film trailer where he's looking out of a bus window, and it reminded me of that, and half his face is in shadow. It looks really cool, really sinister, and I just like the look of this image, and I think it works. I think it's a really, really cool street photo. So I'll just go through another one from that evening as well, and that's of course a steamy bus window. You don't get much better than that when it's been raining. The London buses have nice big windows, and when it rains, everybody's breath steams up on the inside, and you get these really cool sort of light leaks within the glass and things like that, and it looks really cool. And like, I'll just demonstrate here. You can see all of this here is just pretty bright. It's not actually blown out. I don't think this one here is anyway. This might be a bit here. But as you can see, all of the strip lights at the top here really show that steamy, wet look on the window. And it just looks very cool, and you get the whole guy's silhouette, and you can sort of see his face in this, which is quite cool, but you can definitely see that it's a person by his arms quite in focus, but the rest of him isn't. You can see his hand and the way it extends down here, and then you just got his nose here and the rest of his head. And I think it works. I think it looks like a really good image. Again, like I said, I just got stuck in a creative rut, and I think I needed to go out, get absolutely soaked, taking some photos, have a bit of a laugh with some mates, and just get back into it. And like I said, I just felt a lot better when I finished this shoot. But I'm not going to hang around on that bunch of photos for long. There's just one more that I do want to show you, and that's of this guy in a bus shelter. There's a common theme with buses going on at the moment. Now, the reason I really like this image is because I demonstrated over on my Instagram. There's two versions of this image. There's one where I was further away, and I liked the image. It was good, it was well lit, there was a good subject, but I felt like I wasn't close enough. I felt like I wasn't intimate enough. So what did I do? I moved closer, and I was shooting on an 85mm lens anyway, so it was quite cropped. But anyway, I got closer and closer, and I eventually got this image, and I really like this image. I like, especially over here, how all of these lights here fall away into darkness, and they're just really nice and out of focus, and how all of these raindrops are really out of focus. You can't see any of that. They're just sort of nice little bokeh balls. The thing that drew me to this photograph was where he was standing and the light that came down from here, and I think it was catching on his face just about here. You can see there's a highlight on his hair just in this area here. And I like that. I like that this whole part of him is illuminated and the rest of him is in shadow and you can't see him. I think it works very, very well, and I think the placing of the subject isn't exactly where I want him to be. He's a little bit off center, but I think it works. And like I said, with these in the background, it just sort of makes the whole thing quite dynamic, and it gives it a lot of depth. So you have one layer, which is, I guess, the big window. Then you have him, and then you have all this background stuff. So you can see it's quite a complex photo in the fact there's lots of stuff disappearing into the background. There's a nice bit of foreground interest with the raindrops on the window, and then there's him just standing there, and he's in a nice bit of light. And what more could you ask for, really? It's a nice street photo. Now I'm going to jump backwards in time very quickly. This is a photo I took outside of the Royal Naval College in Greenwich, and it was late at night. I was with one of my friends. We had gone for a drink, and I was walking back through the Royal Naval Centre, and I saw these lads messing about on bikes. And I know the Royal Naval College quite well, and I know that they had these sort of floodlights on the floor, and I thought it'd be quite cool if I could get a picture of somebody's silhouette. And lo and behold, I noticed one of them cycle past one of these lights, and their silhouette was cast up on the wall. And I thought, oh, I wish I got that. So I stood there, and I stood there for ages waiting for somebody to do it again. And a couple of lads went past, and they didn't do it. They didn't get quite in the right place. Some of them would come past here in this general direction, and they would do it here. So the silhouette would be behind these pillars, or they would do a wheelie here, and it would come up in here. It kept getting blocked, essentially. But luckily what happened was one lad went past, pulled a wheelie, and he did it right in front of the light. You can see it down here. This is the light here. And that's just sending light straight up. And it silhouetted him against this wall. And I like that you can see him in the frame. The only thing that really annoys me about this image is when I was editing it, I had to do a lot of burning in this area because he was so blown out. Because obviously the light's so close to him, it's literally about a foot away from him in that image, and maybe a couple feet. And yeah, I had to do a lot of burning, which wasn't great, but it came out with a really nice big silhouette, and I think it looks quite ethereal. I think it looks almost spiritual in a way. It's like, I don't want to get a bit too deep here, but it's like, I think it tells a bit of a story, is what I'm trying to say. Trying not to get too poetic and philosophical with my imagery. So I'm just going to talk very quickly through a couple of recent images, and you know from one of my latest videos, I went to Iceland recently, and I went to the Harper Conference Centre and Concert Hall, and I came away with a few really nice images that I like, and I made a video entirely about the Harper Concert Hall, which you should definitely go to if you're in Iceland, because I got a really nice image, and it is this one here. And I like this because it's so dynamic, and there's so much going on in this image. And to top it all off, there's just one guy down here who added that subject in the frame that tied the whole thing together. I feel like if he wasn't there, then the image wouldn't work. Luckily he is, and the image works. And these shapes here, all these like diagonal shapes, look so cool. And all the windows and everything in the background work together so well. I just think it's quite a harsh image in a way, because there's so many lines going on. It's quite complex. There's a lot of perspective going on, as you can see, as I just draw on here. You see it's all going towards the middle here. But he sort of ties it in, which makes the image look quite cool, and I really like it. And the other image I got just outside that business hall, I don't know I wouldn't call this a favourite image of mine, but it's definitely up there with some of my best imagery I got on that trip. Is this couple standing in this bus stop. And I don't know why I like it so much. I think it's just the light. It was really cloudy and quite hazy, so the light was getting quite orangey, and it was coming down and it was hitting this bus stop here, and all these rings were sort of lit up, and I just really like how that looks. And I sort of like the fact that they weren't in the bus stop. That sort of made it seem a bit strange that they weren't standing in the bus stop, but they were just looking at the bus times, which again sort of tells a story. And I think that's key in your photography, is to be able to tell a story. Now this is an image I shot, I think it was last year I shot this image. I really liked this image at the time, and now I look back and I hate it so much. I think that's part of developing your style as a photographer. I basically remember dragging the shadows all the way down, the blacks all the way down, doing it in the tone curve, bringing the exposure down and whacking up the highlights and the whites, and I think it just created it's a cool image. Like I probably would buy a print of it if I wanted to, but as a photo, as a piece of street photography, something that's supposed to document what's going on, I feel like it doesn't have anything to it. There's no substance, there's no texture, there's no face, there's no story. As you can see, it's just completely dark here. You can sort of see a bit of his face, but you're generally not. The one thing I do like about it, actually, is, if I just bring this down, is his collar and these sort of harsh triangles that sort of are throughout the image. Especially these here. It's quite a harsh image. in terms of lots of shapes and hard lines going on, and especially this big one down the middle. Let's try that again, which essentially just takes up literally half of the image. That sort of negative yin and yang kind of style throughout the image, but you know, you move on, you change your style. I think it worked. I thought it worked, and now I don't. I wanted to talk about this image, but I'm not going to, because I feel like it's a very generic street photo. It's not particularly interesting. It's a guy walking from one place to another. It's sort of the harsh shadows and the retained highlights. Very popular with street photographers. I think it looks cool. I think it's a nice image. Is it one of my best? Definitely not. I'm not saying that this one is one of my best, but it's definitely more favourable than the other. This image was taken in a pub when I was on a recce for a shoot. It was a faux Land Rover shoot that I was putting on for a part of a uni project. Sitting in a pub, and I had my 85mm lens with me, and I really liked the way the light was falling on this guy's clothing. There was a window next to him that essentially looked something like this, basically casting some interesting shadows on him. And I took it at a really shallow depth of field, and you can see from about here-ish that the light starts to fall away pretty quickly. Not the light, the focus starts to fall away, and he is pretty much out of focus there. You can see the shape of his ear, you can see some light falling on his face there. And there's a couple of highlights in the background where it was just hitting the wall. And I really like how much negative space there is around him. I especially like the detail on his shirt. You can see it's really sharp, and I quite like how it just sort of curves with his shoulder. I think it looks really smart, and it's a good image. And it's probably one of my favourites on my Instagram. Not necessarily something that I put in my portfolio, but definitely one of my favourite images to share. So that pretty much wraps up this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any suggestions for any photos that you want me to critique in the future, maybe I should critique some of your photos. I think that might be quite fun. If you want to leave your Instagram in the bottom and a suggestion of which image you want me to critique, then let me know. I'll do my best. I won't be mean. I'll just be honest. Like I said, I'm quite harsh with my photos, and I'm quite harsh with how I view my own work. And that is something I'm trying to work on. But like I said, it's all part of the process, part of learning. And I just think photography is one of the best ways to grow any creative endeavor you're doing. Make mistakes, learn from them, adapt, and improve your style. Apart from that, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.